What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about warfare. This story follows a platoon of Navy SEALs who embark on a dangerous mission in Ramadi, Iraq, in which the chaos and brotherhood of war are retold through their memories. Iraq veteran and co-director Ray Mendoza has been involved in the film industry as a technical and military advisor ever since 2012's Act of Valor all the way up to the prime television series The Terminal List. And having collaborated with director Alex Garland in the latest A24 success, Civil War, you know that they were cooking up a passion project that Ray Mendoza has been personally involved with. Not only was Mendoza given an opportunity to share his perspective of the event, but they were able to interview all of the soldiers that were actually involved or were very much comfortable about talking about what went down that day. And this not only makes it much of a true story, but with all the little minute details that they had to work with, a lot of everything that's seen on screen and displayed is very much out of their memories. I was genuinely caught off by the first 2 minutes of the film. It really just opens up with a music video of Call on Me by Eric Prydz, and that's a song that I completely missed out on back in 2004, and it is a banger. I have not stopped listening to it. From then on, we get a pan-around shot of our militant squad, as well as each and every member just getting riled up and just enjoying just the beat of the music, getting into it, and that is actually the only 2 minutes of the film where we actually have a much more jovial moment with the characters. The rest of the 83 minutes is a ticking time bomb that really elevates the high blood pressure. I'm not too sure as to why, but I don't think A24 really pushed the marketing for this, so I really have only seen the trailer for this movie once. The familiar faces that really drew me into this, and I had no idea what to expect, was that there was Will Poulter, Joseph Quinn, and Charles Melton. I'm really digging everything that Will Poulter is doing, especially that's everything outside of an IP, outside of a comedy, because he's not necessarily known for just being the goofy, just funny looking dude anymore. He's really had much of a career change as well as kind of knowing how to represent himself. So I really like that he's really testing the waters and experimenting and seeing what kind of work he can get out there and really test his range as an actor. And then we have Joseph Quinn, who definitely became a fan favorite of Stranger Things, just hitting a hot streak, and then he was tremendous in A Quiet Place Day 1. That boy can scream. And then, I just think that his entrance in the MCU with the Fantastic Four movie coming out, he's going to hit it big. He's going to blow up in the mainstream. Now, I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen a lot of Charles Melton's projects, but I did recognize him from Bad Boys for Life, as well as his Best Supporting Role nominee from May December, and he doesn't necessarily have a lot of screen time here, but he does a good job for what he's given. Some of the other actors that I didn't recognize up until I've seen the film was Kit Connor and Michael Gandolfini. Now, Kit Connor just had something familiar about him, but I did look him up and there wasn't much that I've actually seen from him, but he was in The Wild Robot as the voice of Bright Bill, and I actually love that animated movie. And of course, I'm watching Daredevil Born Again. I just finished it recently, so it was just so easy to clock in Michael Gandolfini right away. The spotlight subtly shifts focus onto two particular members of the team, who are Ray and Elliot, played by none other than DeFaro Wunatai and Cosmo Jarvis. Wunatai dramatizes Mendoza, our co-director, as the Joint Terminal Attack Controller. So he had a lot of military jargon and a lot of things to memorize, really controlling a lot of the situation that happens. And he has one of the more very pivotal and emotional turns, especially through the end of the second act. And Jarvis, on the other hand, he pretty much spends the first act of the movie on his stomach and just keeping his eyes wide open through that rifle scope. And whatever that character, especially the real life soldier, what they've been through was so heavy and so brutal. I just love that this movie really honors a lot of his valor. With the incredible and visceral performances of every actor, I just truly admired the brotherhood, the bond, and the genuine camaraderie between these group of soldiers. Just all of this is happening in real time, and we don't necessarily get a lot of character development. We don't have time to really flesh them out, but we have a lot of what their screen presence is offering, which is some of their personality and their grit. We get to see how these individuals get to feel controlled, especially in a safe environment, and to see them be completely vulnerable when they really start to face pressure. And when they begin to face pressure head on, I was actually kind of confused at first as to why it was easy to see the cracks in their training, and then it hit me. This is the first time that this group of young men were facing a lot of these obstacles under fire. Now, I do have to warn you that this is not your typical war movie. Yes, the director of Civil War, Alex Garland, was heavily involved in this film, but where I thought a lot of the gunfights and explosions were going to take the action to the streets, this is tightly contained. And what I mean about that is take example like the third act of 13 Hours from Michael Bay and give that a little bit of the budget that maybe George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead or John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13 had. And with that type of expectations, I do think that it is much more of a smaller scale type of movie, and it does take about 30 to 45 minutes to really kick into high gear. So the film really asks for its audience patience and really just go along for the ride. The dread and claustrophobia that just overcame the team while they were being taken under siege at this house really gave the opportunity for the crew to really get creative with the cinematography, the production, and sound design. I mean, you can tell that almost every single frame of this movie had a lot of precision and care given to it, especially with the actors and their blocking, especially with the training that went beyond the script. They also did not skimp out on the practical effects because the images of injury really had me pinned to my seat, just breathless. And with the exception of the opening credits and the end credits, there is no score and music to really manipulate the audience through the chaos and the horror that is happening all around these characters. Getting into some of my minute nitpicks, I would have to say that they pretty much wasted the families that were pretty much in the home that they invaded and set up communications and base. They didn't really add too much about what was really going on, so I really did think that Mendoza didn't intend on adding any more fluff to a script where it wasn't needed. And then I have to say, I don't think the film had a proper ending. It just kind of faded to black and just started a compilation of a lot of the veterans that were just key consultants for the production. And you know what? I think the thing that Mendoza said in an interview was that what happens in war is that it doesn't necessarily end. So that's kind of really the true symbolism, which I would have to say is kind of a nice touch. Overall, in a year where A24 hasn't had the strongest slate, Warfare is definitely more of an experience than a movie itself. I do have to admit that this is a film that I truly appreciate, something that I sincerely admire, but I do not intend on rewatching this movie over and over again. It's just not the type of movie that you really want to put yourself through. I know I watched some horrific shit, but this, on the other hand, was definitely triggering. I can only imagine that watching or recreating some of the hardships, some of the horrific ordeals that these real-life veterans went through must have taken a toll on them, must have been very difficult to see, especially in a Hollywood production. And I do think that this is a proper and really strong love letter for Elliot Miller and the SEAL team members that were involved with this Ramadi mission. Well, all right, guys, that's all I get to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out on the biggest screen possible if you want. Look forward to more reviews. I'm Jaren Ugbanawag, and I want to thank you guys again for taking some time out of your day to hear me talk some movies. Take care, and I'll see you at the theater.